I'm Cathy Baumann, the director of the Chicago Language Center, and I'm really glad to be able to report on what we've been doing this past year. I'm going to focus on or share with you information about four main areas: our project activities, expanded outreach, dissemination, and then, of course, looking ahead, as we're all doing, I think, after this year. We've been able to hold all of our workshops as planned in 2021, since 2020. We did the same in the 2020 cycle. Our workshops take place in the summer mainly. We were glad that we could do this virtually, but we have learned that we miss a lot of the face-to-face interaction, the community building. We've really discovered that we've developed a community of practice through our project. Some of that gets lost. Some of the informal conversations, all the things that we know we are missing by not being able to attend meetings and other events face to face. So we look forward to holding our workshops in the 2022 cycle in person on our campus. We know that an advantage of the virtual format was that it was more convenient for many people to attend. But we do feel that the face-to-face element outweighs that. So in 2022, we will look ahead to holding meetings face-to-face, in person. We held a modified oral proficiency interview workshop in this May 2021. We had 3 groups with a wider range of schools and languages, and I'll talk about our expanded outreach in just a second. We chose the modified oral proficiency interview format because it meets the needs of our instructors a little bit better. Modified oral proficiency interview training focuses on the novice and intermediate levels up until intermediate high, advanced low. And that is, of course, where most of our learners, those are the proficiency levels that most of our learners reach. The workshop was successful. It was held virtually, 3 different groups, and we will probably go back to the full OPI format in 2022. We held a test design and development workshop with, again, a wide range of participants from the Big Ten, also from several private colleges, the 5 colleges consortium, and some smaller liberal arts colleges, and work with instructors to design end-of-sequence proficiency assessments, the second step of participation in our project. And just this past week, I'm making this recording on the 16th of July. Just this week, we held our curriculum development workshop for, again, a very diverse group of instructors with 9 different curricular projects, ranging from elementary language, second-year language, into content areas and heritage language instruction. So again, all of these were held virtually and successfully. We've learned how to balance synchronous and asynchronous time and how to build community, but we look forward to holding our workshops in person in 2022. When we first conceived our project in 2016, we worked primarily with the Big Ten Academic Alliance schools and the Ivy Plus consortium. We also focused on forming collaborative partners, 2 individual instructors of a language who would work together to share assessments, curricula, and ultimately students. But we found that the professional development impact of our project was more important and more sustainable. And also we wanted to move beyond these consortia into additional consortial groups like the group at 5 colleges on the East Coast in the Massachusetts area, and 2 other institutions, liberal arts institutions, or smaller state universities. Also, though, we wanted to keep the collaboration, so we still require that our participants are working as partners, in other words, 2 instructors of a single language, or as cohorts. We have a group of 4 instructors from the University of Florida, Gainesville, who all are working now on curricular projects after completing test development last summer. So we have moved beyond the original groups into 2 different types of partnerships and cohorts, and also beyond our initial institutions. So this has really given us the opportunity to have a bigger impact with different schools and reaching, of course, different students in the process. We have presented ourselves. We will present in. We will have just presented in August when the SLCTLS meeting is taking place. That was scheduled in 2020. It is now happening in 2021. Unfortunately, in a virtual context, but that is, of course, the world we're living in. We have budgeted expanded funds to support our own LCTL participants who present at meetings and conferences. We're able to support them by paying registration for meetings, and ultimately we've increased those amounts to be able to support them when they travel to conferences to attend, to present on their projects. We find this essential and an essential component to the work we're doing to not only give our LCTL instructors the opportunity as professionals to share their work, to increase the visibility of their work nationally or internationally, and also increase their professionalism in the eyes of their deans or chairs on their campuses. We're also trying to keep track of participants' publications in different journals and on different formats. Sometimes these are online formats, and we also support that work. Sometimes reading drafts of proposals, also supporting them in how to cite the different materials that they use and use from our workshops. And our trainers, our Chicago Language Center trainers, have been invited to give workshops nationally and internationally based on the work we're doing on this project. And we see this as another way to disseminate and really help others embrace our approach, which we find successful on multiple levels, not only the professionalism and the pedagogical practices of LCTL instructors, but also their own agency in being in charge of their pedagogy and having the reverse design approach that informs it. Looking ahead, our original grant was from 2016 to 2021, 5 years. So that is concluding this summer. We have sought and received permission to spend out the surplus until 2024, meaning we will be holding our workshops for the next 3 years, the summers of 2022, 23, and 24. And a new workshop we will be holding as a final graduation, if you will, for our participants is a workshop, a multifaceted workshop on evaluation. Our instructors, our participants are already effectively evaluating their curricula by giving their end of sequence assessments, teaching their newly aligned courses, and then giving their assessments again and seeing what the impact of their realignment or redevelopment is. The evaluation workshop that we will be piloting and holding next summer will teach these participants, whether they are the single instructor of a language or the coordinator of a multi-instructor language program, or the director of a department or other institutional structure, how to do program evaluation or pedagogical evaluation. We continue to work with Michigan State University on strategic sharing. There are so many ways this can happen. I'm working on my campus to create some partnerships across summer intensive language programs and to make those visible to our undergraduates and graduate students in order to advance their language instruction. That's just one example of strategic sharing. Also looking to try to establish some long-term course share agreements through the partnerships that are growing out of our Transforming Language Instruction project. Opening our workshops to a wider audience is another feature looking ahead, and we also hope to be publishing materials and resources on our approach, which we call assessment-driven reverse design. Thank you for listening to my brief synopsis of our workshop activities. Feel free to contact me if you have questions or you're interested in working with us. You can also find more about our project, more details, and about our workshops at this website. And while I have your attention, I'd also like to let you know that we will be hosting 2 meetings next spring, both of which will allow us to highlight some of the work being done in our projects. Actually, we're helping to host 3 workshops. The first one is the Language Assessment Research Conference, or LARC, L-A-R-C, that will be held on our campus from the 7th to the 9th of April. It'll be partially funded by the Mellon Foundation, also supported by the University of Chicago, and will be a forum where we hope many of our participants will be able to present. A couple weeks later, on April 21st and 22nd, we will be hosting the International Symposium on Language for Specific Purposes, which also has assessment-driven implications and projects associated with it. The day after the ISLSP, we'll be hosting the Chicago Language Symposium, which also has a theme around language for specific purposes. So I'll hope you'll join us for any of those meetings, and you can find more information about them on the languages.uchicago website. Thank you.